You're listening to a fight against free kill laws from AMP Media Production Studio.
Welcome to the Fight Against Free Kill Laws with Ed Salazar, where we give a voice to those who have suffered firsthand from medical malpractice. In Florida, families devastated by medical negligence are left without justice because of a law many don't even know exists. Florida's free kill law prevents families from holding doctors accountable. These are real stories with real loss and no justice. Contact Ed at 561-239-2417 or visit afreekill.com. Today we uncover the truth, share real stories, and demand change.
Good evening, friends, and thank you for joining us. I tried to put a message out that we were going to do something a little bit different today. As most of you know, I'm sure, the Senate, Florida Senate, let the bill die. 1700, Senate Bill 1700 is dead. It's not going to move forward. It never even got to a vote. It was never heard in a single committee. And again, as we said last week, the reason given to us was that the senators, I believe it was Yarborough, said that there was not enough reason to believe that the outcome would be any different than last year. And that tells us that even though you had overwhelming support as far as the vote went in the Senate and the legislation, or the House of Representatives, that there was not an appetite to go forward with an override of the governor's veto, that it would be the same situation this year. You know, we were all very disappointed, but we are not going to give up. We are going to, at least from my point of view, I think what we have to do is we have to concentrate on a different tactic. Now, we have plenty of stories to tell. I've been in touch with at least 6 individuals in the state of Florida who have a story of a family member that was a free kill victim, and they want to share their stories. And we are going to continue to do that. But tonight, what we wanted to do is kind of brainstorm ideas on what we can do to have our numbers become more effective. And I'm delighted to have a co-host tonight. Dawn is part of the dynamic duo that runs AMP2 Media Productions. Her and Freddie they've got an incredible studio here. They have an incredible media operation, outstanding technicians. These kids speak a language that I don't even understand. It's been a real privilege to work with them. And Dawn is as competent a journalist as she is a media professional. And she has agreed to help me with some computer stuff while we have this talk. Can we bring up the first screenshot, the one labeled legislators? Do we have that? There we go. Now, y'all can probably read this faster than I can. But basically, I asked AI, does Florida have a representative form of government? And it said, yes, we do. And it gave all the reasons that you can read there, why the system is set up and designed for the citizens of the state of Florida to have a voice in how they are governed. Now, my position is, and I remember Daryl saying that, our slogan should be, do not put profits over people. And this kind of rolls into, lobbyists. Who is the reason? What is the reason that our legislators will not listen to their constituents? That they will not take heed to the voice of the constituents. Put up that second slide, please. The one that is labeled lobbyists. Okay, now this is something that I thought was extremely interesting, and we talked about this last week, that roughly 40%, now I believe this is in the U.S. House of Representatives and legislators, but roughly 50% of senators, when they retire, they become lobbyists. Now, is that the core of the problem here?
Well, let me ask you, Ed, what do you think the core of the problem is? Because if we back up to when you first came to us with Christopher's story, we didn't even know what a free kill law was. I thought, that's crazy. That doesn't even make, how can we even have a law labeled a free kill law in Florida? And we did the research, and you shared with it what it is. Do you think it's a misunderstanding of who is protected, who isn't? Is it this legal loophole of we think it's attorneys versus doctors when ultimately maybe it's more of a family morality issue of we're just trying to get fairness for everybody that has a loved one. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can explain really what this law is.
Okay, well, and you know, that's a good point, because sometimes I think we get so caught up in our anger that we forget
Sure.
what our primary focus is. But, you know, again, you know, the law says that in the state of Florida, and we'll just call this the profile, if you fit this profile, if you're 25 years or older, if you are single and you have no dependent children, and you die of medical malpractice in the state of Florida, there is no legal recourse to pursue a recovery of any monetary recovery for the malpractice. They feel that there's no financial loss. You can talk about, you know, emotional damages, but they won't let you talk. That carries no weight, and in their opinion, there are no financial damages that can be compensated for. Now, you know, a lot of us that have been in this fight for a long, long time. Again, you know, the book was written and it was published in 2014. So, you know, this has been, for me, this has been going on a long time. And a lot of the other members of the Florida Medical Rights Association have been involved in this for a long time. And the thing that we keep saying over and over again is that we want accountability.
From whom? And this is just being specific because of what you're looking at. I think we need to hone in on, maybe it's not the, ultimately, right, it's the lobbyists, it's the politicians that have to vote on it. But is it up to us, the people, the families, to say, this is who it affects, to get the information out there on a broader scope, as well as sharing your stories, but maybe into a greater platform of fairness. So it's not lawyers versus doctors, it's more of fairness to the families. And then you're looking at economical pain and suffering versus non-pain and suffering, right? You've got medical damages, and then you've got pain and suffering. What does that equate to financially? Mm-hmm. Because maybe they're looking at it as a malpractice, and I don't know, I'm playing devil's advocate. Maybe they're looking at it as a malpractice. This is why we don't want to go after the doctors, because we're afraid of losing the doctors.
Well, that was their original position.
However, if you have a doctor, and there's malpractice and there's malaccurrence, and unfortunately bad things do happen in a setting, right? So then you're talking about fairness for compensation. Should there not be an age limit to what your life is valued at? Should it really matter if you have children or dependents or not? If you are over the age of 25 and you don't have dependents, that means your parents don't have a right to their pain and suffering to be fairly acknowledged. So maybe it's more of like a senior, not that you were a senior when you lost Christopher. If Christopher hadn't had kids, you were not considered a senior, you are his parent. Right. So it's really not a senior issue, it's more of a family morality issue. Why are we discriminating against people that do not have children?
Well, I can tell you that, you know, Christopher's mother, my wife, Carol, myself, Christopher's brother and his sisters, it was so devastating. There was financial impact.
Of course.
I can remember one night I woke up from a night terror, and this, you know, wasn't too long after he died. And all I could think of doing was going outside. I went out to the backyard and I just screamed as loud as I could scream. And at the moment, it seemed like the only thing that could, it was like a pressure relief valve, you know. And I know people go through this all the time, and that's it's to your point. That's one of those things that you can't put a value on. I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe it's reframing it and just re-educating it differently. Because you have so many great stories. I can't say they're great stories, they're sad stories, they're touching stories, but the families come together and they're sharing stories of their loved ones. And yes, sometimes I think we lose it in the anger of losing your loved ones, of what it is.
Well, you know, this is Dawn's pen, it's not mine.
Of course. The magic of the pen.
Yeah. The one thing that, you know, I agree with you, you know, we've got to change tactic. And Dawn did an inquiry with AI.
You know, ChatGPT and I became some friends. Just look about reframing what it is. And then how do we get it? There are days, legislative days, which we have to be right in the middle of it in this first few weeks of March. Now I know this is why this didn't pass during this time, but going forward, maybe this next week through March 13th is the time to really put some pressure on it going forward for next year. And to say, although this did not pass this session, what can we do as a community, as a people of the state of Florida, to really say, how do we get this moving forward and not stop where it's stopping? What's missing? Is it a disconnect? You don't have enough stories, or is it fearful of losing doctors, the fear of malpractice carriers dropping their physicians? Like, what is it that we're not reaching? And maybe it just takes more reaching out to the representatives to say, what's our disconnect? This is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to say we want money. We're looking for fairness for all people.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I believe that, you know, we just have to identify an increasing number of people who are like-minded in how this should be pursued. If we, you know, my feeling is that if we could do a poll, if there was some way we could do some polling, and just simply ask the question, how do you feel about Florida's free kill law? And, you know, give an explanation of what the law is, and just do a poll. Do you think it's fair, unfair? Should it be abolished? Should it not be abolished? Would you support a candidate who would move to abolish this? Do you think it should be left the way it is? If there was some way that we could show that there are thousands of people that think that this is unfair, unjust, you know, when you see people that respond to the stories that we post, and these are people that, you know, watch and they listen and they hear the stories, and they may not be victims themselves, but they'll give an opinion. This is ludicrous. You know, I can't believe that this is true. You know, believe me, it's true. Well, if those people would align with us, and we had evidence that those voting people, you know, would support an initiative to find legislators that will champion our position, I think that might be effective.
And if there's a way to find out why they're not championing your position, what is it? Is it the way the bill is written? Is it what's being asked for? Is it maybe that tweak that needs to be, maybe it takes really you or your patients' right advocacy to reach out to the legislators and say, what are we missing? Do we need to rephrase the bill? Bills get changed all the time where there's the nuances. Is there something attached to this bill that we're unaware of, that part isn't passing? You know, sometimes they group things in together and they may call it the free kill law bill to change, but maybe there's something else attached to it that they're trying to get in or get out.
Well, they're trying to get caps in.
So maybe that's what we're looking at. I don't know. There seems to be more to it, the refinement of it. And let's reach out to one of our legislators once the session is over and say, what are we missing?
Well, yeah, maybe we can find one of the the senators that originally sponsored the bill and ask them,
Right.
you know, what suggestions you have for us to be more effective in the next legislative session.
You know, is it the cap? Is it removing the cap? Obviously, for something to win, there has to be a give and take, right? There's always a compromise in what it is. Is the cap too high? Is the cap too low? Do we need to remove caps? Which is that what they're thinking? If it passes whatever that number looks like.
Well, the Florida Supreme Court, I believe, and somebody out there correct me if I'm wrong, but on 3 occasions has ruled caps unconstitutional. Now, the exact argument for why they're unconstitutional, I'm not aware of. I'm sure Travis knows, but I'm unaware of that. But you know, that's something that we could talk more about and create more awareness about that. I'm looking into setting up a nonprofit.
You have a phone call.
Oh
You
yeah,
want it?
sure. Yes, someone's calling in. We're going to bring them in.
Okay.
But I am looking to set up a nonprofit. In that way, you know, we can solicit donations. We can solicit perhaps grants. And you know, we state exactly what the foundation of our nonprofit is, and you know, that way we can become active lobbyists.
Is this the statute is 768.21? This is on damages? Or
It's
this is just the damages side of it?
Yeah, 786.1 subsection 8, I think.
We have a call?
You got Travis on the line.
Yeah, Travis on the line.
Well, good. I'm glad he can bail me out. Okay, Travis, go ahead.
Hey man, yeah, I was listening to your stream there, and the original passage of the bill back in 1990, the fiscal analysis shows that there is no impact regarding state agencies and the public. So the fact that people say this is to keep physicians from
Well,
leaving
we're trying to get
the
Travis's volume.
state.
Tell us a little more about Travis.
Okay, Travis, his mother was a free kill victim, and he has researched the,
I think I'm on
the
delay.
laws. He's done extensive work looking into rulings prior to the. I think it's been 36 years that the free kill law has been on the books, but he's gone back to before the law was put on the books, and in his research, he's determined that proper form wasn't kept in establishing the free kill law in the first place. So, you know, for the whole 36 years, this thing may have been unconstitutional.
So what's happening with that is he's moving forward. Can you imagine to find that loophole? They're talking about loopholes.
Have we got him? Travis, try again.
Yep. Hey, I'm here. Am I still on delay?
He's on it. It's just kind of
I can hear him
Ed.
talking, but but we can't make out what he's saying.
try to call back. Ask him to call back.
Travis, I'm sorry. Go ahead and call back in, please. We're having a problem with the reception.
So he's fine. He's thinking that the whole law itself is unconstitutional.
Right. Okay, but you know, let's get back to this idea of the nonprofit. You know, if we also talked about putting out a petition to see if we couldn't get a general, you know, just put it on the ballot, you know, and get, you know, bypass legislation. But my understanding is that having a filing for a petition in Florida is an expensive proposition.
Everything's an expensive proposition.
Yeah, which is another reason to, you know, possibly pursue the nonprofit to see if we can get over that.
And Florida is the only state that has it in this capacity,
to this
correct?
degree, yes. There's some form of sovereign immunity.
Okay.
You know, all states have it to some degree, and the statutory limits on judgments varies from state to state. But this thing about absolutely no recourse if you fit the profile, Florida is the only state that has that.
So you know, just in looking some things up, why in 2025 didn't it pass? They're saying increase the fear of, concerned with, medical malpractice insurance premiums going up, increase healthcare costs, and make it harder to get doctors to Florida. However, if Florida is the only state that has it within these parameters, how are the other states doing it effectively? Is why don't we look at some key states that actually don't have this, and how are they keeping the med-mal rates down? How are they not increase health care costs? Healthcare costs countrywide, nationally, are having enough issues. So why are we honing in on that when we've got a lot of other states that aren't having this issue? All right, we're going to try it again, Travis.
All right, sorry about that. So what I was getting at is when they passed the law back in 1990, the analysis performed.
Okay, we're having
had
technical difficulties.
We can have Travis call you on your phone if he has
Okay.
your number,
Still can't hear
and
me?
then we'll see. So that's it. Those are the other, and then they're talking about political trade-offs in tort reform. Is the law part of a broader debate about tort reform, which is what I'm thinking. This law has to be a part of something that's bigger than this law, that it's getting lumped into this situation. Is it overall insurance? Is it litigation that harms healthcare access? There's something in this tort reform, perhaps in this bill, if we can have someone take a look at it and say what needs, can we take it out? Can we pull it out and isolate it as it is? But I think what happens, and I am not an attorney, so do not quote me, is sometimes there's so many things that people want to put on the books. Sometimes they put things together that are similar, but yet dissimilar. And perhaps that's the reason. I don't know until somebody takes it apart, but for some reason they're not taking it apart to look at this. And I guess why?
Well, I don't know. You know, I solicited some ideas from some of our members. Melody had a suggestion. How about a session where we connect the dots on the lobbyists, their public pay, and who their clients are? You know, are lobbyists required to disclose their activity?
I think it's whoever's fighting it, whether it be the malpractice insurance carriers, the physicians that don't want it to go up, maybe it's explaining it, and again, just retweaking the bill for fairness and looking at what some of the other states have and comparing it to the Florida law. You know, taking a big, deep dive with some attorneys that look at this and saying, let's compare the laws of some other states, even some states that practice the political agenda similar to Florida, right? So maybe Florida is closest to, and I'm not going to name a state, but those other states that are similar in representation as ours, right? Type of governor we have, type of Senate that we have, those that are in somewhat of alignment, say how are they doing it and why can't we? What do we need to look at to change it? But then why are we not? There's so many things as to what's happening. I can't imagine that someone's not looking at this. And if they're not, then why? Is it because it hasn't hit their agenda? It's not pulling at their heartstrings enough? Is there not a greater impact to understand why? It's so big, but you've got such a huge support system on this. I mean, the comments that you have come through every show.
Yes, they do.
And you've got the patient rights advocacy group working with you.
Well, and another thing to be concerned about, and those of you listening who are not residents of the state of Florida, it's my understanding that there's evidence that the American Medical Association is approaching the legislators in other states.
Okay.
And they're proposing that these other states take a look at the law in Florida.
So they want to reverse it.
They want to.
I mean, they want to look at Florida versus us looking at them.
Right. They want to promote it in other states. So, you know, these ridiculous, horrible free kill laws could be coming to a city near you.
So see, I'm not crazy. I'm looking at it the reverse. And they're like, well, let's look at Florida. Let's do what they're doing. Don't necessarily do what we're doing. I mean, I'm all about protecting physicians, and this is certainly not a physician hunt against the medical community. This is about fairness to families that there have been maloccurrences and malpractice, and if that has been deemed by the courts. But by all means, this is not to go after physicians or to raise their healthcare premiums, because what premiums cost, people end up having to go bear, because the cost of insurance, which we know across the industry and everything, health insurance, homeowners insurance, you name insurance in Florida, it's very high for everything. But this is by no means saying let's go against the entire medical community. I mean, you've been in the medical community your whole career. You're not looking to go after physicians. You're just looking for fairness for families.
Accountability.
Right.
And if there's no accountability, then, you know, I've sat on both sides of the table, you know, provider, patient, family member. I think that every citizen deserves to know when they go to a hospital what that hospital's record is.
And that's the other side of it. It's the hospital, the facility, not necessarily a physician. In Christopher's case alone, a physician did not act on this. Christopher's case was
it was a procedural.
Through a cascade of things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't this physician caused harm to your son.
No.
So it's even bigger than the physicians. It goes to, and maybe that's
the
what's
entire
blocking
healthcare
this.
delivery system.
If you think about
Accountability through the entire
how many
system.
hospitals are owned by the conglomerates. I know you're laughing, but maybe that is part of what is blocking this, is the conglomerates of who owns these hospitals. None of them are privately owned anymore.
Very few.
Right. You know, not the masses, and then you deal with sovereign immunity, and it just gets bigger and bigger. But the fact that there's an age cap on it is interesting. I'd love to know why they chose that age over another age.
Arbitrary? I don't know.
You know, and that's what I think. At that age of 25, you said this has been in effect for many, many years, 36 years.
We're going on the 37th year.
You think about
now.
our kids. Some of our kids, now I'm a grandparent, our kids are still in college. Your kids are still at this age of learning, but yet once they hit the age of 18, you're not even able to get their medical records unless you're a legal guardian and there's documents. So I think the whole system as a whole we need to look at. Because at the age of 25, some people are newly driving. And now as things change, kids don't even learn to drive sometimes until that, because there's so many restrictions. Back in the day when I learned to drive, it was like, how fast could you get our license and go?
Yeah.
Now
exactly.
I've got crew working in here and they're 25, 26. They don't drive. They never got their license. They're afraid to get in a car. Things are different. I just think ages of everything need to be relooked at. Although there shouldn't even be an age. Because that means one age versus a life is more important than another. What value do we put on life at age 26?
I never thought about that. It might be interesting to find out. But, you know, we definitely have to change our tact.
Yes.
We have to identify like-minded individuals who would stand with us. We have to, I believe, and I welcome any comments that the viewers have, that the membership has, on ideas on how we can move to get this on a ballot for a popular vote, you know, what's required of that. And then, you know, once we do that, find a way to bring expanded awareness of the situation, you know, speaking, churches, civic centers, you know, whatever it takes.
Yeah, will the pressure help? And we just need to look at the bill itself and really take a deep dive. And maybe there's an attorney out there or a firm that says, you know what, I'm really supporting this fairness, the equality, that all rights matter, all ages matter, all people matter, whether you have children that are young or not. Your life is just as valuable to your parents as they are to your children.
I don't know, maybe we're going to approach the Florida Bar Association.
Good idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. We got 49 seconds. Goes like in the blink of an eye.
Well, what I really wanted to do, I guess, is just vent. Cause
Welcome to my table anytime.
But in talking to you know, some of the other people in the organization, you know, we're all terribly frustrated. We're hurt, angry. But I haven't spoken to anybody that wants to give up.
You're just seeking justice and fairness, as you should. because that's what we do. That's what humanity does and families do, is we look for fairness and justice and compassion and to make a difference. We can't bring people back who we've lost, but we can only hope to fight to make a difference in those going forward.
And in our opinion, our collective opinion, accomplishing that would honor
True.
the people that we've lost.
Amen.
And that's our objective. All right, folks, thank you very much. Please, any comments you have, send them our way. I'll start cataloging any ideas you have on things we can do to be more effective during the next legislative session. You know, everything's on the table. Okay? Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.
Imagine this. A loved one, a son or a daughter, has just suffered from a life-threatening accident. They are transported to a state trauma hospital, and despite being in the care of professional physicians, they tragically pass away due to preventable medical errors. As if this was not tragic enough, then finding out that legal statutes in the state of Florida devalue your loved one's life to zero. This is what we are fighting against. Come join Edward Salazar as he discusses the issues surrounding free kill laws and how to resolve them. Catch The Fight Against Free Kill Laws with Ed Salazar on Monday, 5 p.m. on all social media. Learn who we are and join our cause today. Thank you for watching The Fight Against Free Kill Laws with Ed Salazar, where we interview those who have dealt firsthand with medical malpractice. Families are devastated by medical malpractice and left with no justice. This isn't just a loophole. It's a failure to protect the ones we love. It's time to change the law. It's time for accountability. Contact your state legislatures, visit afreekill.com for more information on how to help, or contact Ed at 561-239-2417. Because every life should matter.
You're listening to A Fight Against Free Kill Laws from AMP Media Production Studio.